You want to swing wildly at the internet like you've got the new pill in your hand, but you keep getting dead battered. Find the movement you want with NordVPN. They are our protection against terrifying cyber threats and wide-battered geo-blocks. NordVPN will help you get through any rights restrictions so you can watch all the cricket you want. We aren't always happy with the wickets we're on. Sometimes we need a change. NordVPN can switch your virtual location so your IP address is ready to cash in. So if you need to get around the internet's rules, or I suppose in our case laws, select NordVPN. They can help you watch a game on a cheaper stream in another country. Give NordVPN the ball and let them penetrate all your vast internet issues. Because if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. You can also receive a 20-gigabyte daily data voucher. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a big hitter is coming for you at nordvpn.com/KIMBER right now. NVPlay helped me make this content. For detailed performance breakdowns of your game using technology and data, contact them today.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 44 of the Crickpicks podcast. I'm Behram Qazi, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter. With me, of course, to my right is Estelle Vasudevan. You can find her on Twitter as well at Estelle_Vasude, the number 1. And of course, to my left, we've got Jarrod Kimber, as always, who you can find literally everywhere. If you're new to Crickpicks, what we do in this podcast is that we take any generic cricket category and we draft our top 5 for that category in a snake-style draft competition. And what that means is that we basically have a pick order of 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And sometimes we build teams. You know, we combine to build teams on this podcast. We've been doing it a lot recently. And the last one, I don't know if you caught the last Crickpicks, but we basically built a team which could beat India in a test series in India from 2013 to present day.
Except that it could definitely not beat India at the team.
Yeah, it probably would lose over there. But that kind of gave me another idea that we should do this for other dominant teams of their era, at home. And Australia were unbeaten from like 93, 94 to the end of 2008 at home. So today, in this particular episode, we are going to build a team which can defeat Australia and Australia in that specified period, 94 to 08. And Jarrod Kimber has pick number 1. So let's go.
Curtly Ambrose.
Yeah, I had him.
He's
averaging less than
1,
20.
right?
Yeah. He's so good over there. 14 test matches, 78 wickets at less than 20 apiece. His strike rate is also 48. And Jarrod, he's got that spell right in this period in Australia, no?
Yeah.
Is it in this period or did that spell come earlier?
No. I think it was after 93. Oh, was it? Actually, I can't remember if it's in this period. Either way, he was brilliant all the way through. He was just an absolute force. He was made for Australian wickets, probably more than he even was for West Indian wickets. The Australians didn't know how to face him. You know the Dean Jones story, don't you?
I do know the Dean Jones story. Yes.
Yeah, where he's going to be bowling, and he's got white wristbands on, and Dean Jones is like, "Oh, you can't bowl with those; they'll clash with the ball." Which is Dean Jones was 100% correct in what he did, and no Australian batter wanted to hear that, and they were all terrified and wished that he'd never spoken in Curtly Ambrose's general area. So, I don't even second is such a distance behind Curtly Ambrose for me on this.
Yeah, and never ever tell him to take off his wristband for one. That's
I personally never have. He's a lovely person. Have you guys ever worked with him? He's a lovely guy in real life. He's just
I've seen clips.
And
he looks really warm. So
yeah, I really enjoyed working with him a couple of times that I have. I think he's a better bowler than he was a musician as well. I'm just going to go out there.
And 78 wickets in 14 test matches is unreal, right? The average is below 20, but it doesn't even matter because that many wickets in 14 test matches is just flat out ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, at that rate, he would have hit 100 wickets before he played his 20th test in Australia, right? Which is insane. But anyway, I have pick number 2, and honestly, there are more players or a lot of players who probably get in before this one. But Estelle, prior to this podcast, mentioned to me that she does have a Pakistani in her list. So I just want to take that Pakistani off her list, and I'm going to go Wasim Akram. He has 36 wickets in 9 test matches in Australia at 24 apiece. And also, he could be an extremely handy number 8. because he scored 419 runs with the bat at an average of 26, and he's got a ton in Adelaide, I believe. So yeah, you've got Curtly Ambrose and Wasim Akram with the ball. I think we're off to a solid start.
So Wasim Akram was the first Test cricketer I ever saw bowl. So I went to see Australia-Pakistan in my first Test match, and I was watching him. Wasim Akram took the first ball. I think that's right. Anyway, he's certainly the first one I remember watching. Anyway, but what I remember is just watching him bowl and how much quicker he was than the Australian bowlers. It's such a weird thing to think back on, but Australian bowlers weren't particularly quick at that point. Craig McDermott was out injured again, and they didn't. And McDermott was quick, but I don't think he was ever as quick as Wasim Akram anyway. So. He's a brilliant bowler in Australia. I was shocked he didn't play as many Test matches in Australia in that period as I thought he would have. So I think they played just before the series I'm talking about must be 1991 or 91-92 around that period. Yeah. So I'm assuming there was a couple more Test matches in there as well. But no, he was a fantastic bowler, and he was a swing bowler, and we don't think about Australia as a swing bowling country anymore because Glenn McGrath and Curtly Ambrose kind of eradicated that kind of bowling in Australia. But traditionally in Australia, those are the kind of bowlers who did best was swing bowlers. It's just not something that we see all that much in Australian bowling anymore.
Yeah, and you've got some depth with the bat as well. You've got a left arm angle in there.
Yeah.
And he's got a link with Australia too now because his wife is from there. So he's
basically
do just
from Melbourne.
Fine.
I don't even know why Pakistan's playing him anymore.
Yeah. All right, Estelle, 2 picks upcoming for you.
Okay.
Michael Clark.
I can't pick Michael Clark.
Oh, okay.
Can I?
I wish more I can't.
Yeah.
I don't think I can mess this up. I don't think so. So I'll go with Lara.
Yep.
Okay.
Great record in Australia, particularly during that period. He has, let me see.
I mean, he's got like a 260.
To 2005. Yeah, 1,200
odd
runs.
in Sydney, was it?
270, 277, averaging 51, 400s. Yeah. He's
that
Lara, right?
double century in Sydney was terrible because, and then there's that whole joke because he names his daughter Sydney. And of course, the running joke in Australian cricket ever since has been lucky to make the runs in Lahore. So in some ways, it would be nice if Lara wasn't on this list. No, a fantastic player in Australia. I think McGrath eventually worked him out, but it took him a long time to work him out. And by that point, that was the thing with Lara. A lot of it was about motivation. And I think he was far more motivated to better against Australia than he was against anywhere else because they were the team that pushed him the most.
Yeah. Well, what were the numbers again, Estelle?
Yeah, so during that period, 93 onwards, he has 1,278 runs at an average of 51, 400.
Wow.
Including that double.
Holy shit. I mean, of course, he was on my team as well, but it's a good first pick for you. Let's see where you go with the next one.
Yeah, this one is going to win me this Crickpicks episode, right?
Yes, it
Sachin.
will. Of course. Of course it will.
I thought Mark Butcher is what I thought she was going to say.
It will. Definitely. You've got both Lara and Sachin. You're winning this.
Yeah, and Sachin's record is actually a tiny bit better than Lara's. He's also got 400s, including a double century, 1,154 runs at 64. Yeah, so, I mean, those were probably the 2 easiest picks after Ambrose for me.
In these teams drafts, it's easier or it's much better to get picks number 3 and 4. I recognized this little thing in the previous one, the India one, that it's actually a pretty good position to be in. And you ended up with Sachin, who was going to be my obvious first pick. But then I was like, I can't let her take Wasim because that's obviously it has to be the Pakistani that's on her list. So I'm going to nick it off her. But if you look at Sachin's overall.
Mushtaq Ahmed.
Yeah, you
don't give people ideas.
You don't know who I had.
But, even if you go outside the period, Sachin's overall record in Australia is phenomenal. He's played 20 Test matches there. He's got 1,809 runs. There are cricketers in the world or batters who don't have 1,809 runs in total. And he's done that averaging 53.2 with 6 tons and a highest of 241 not out. So, I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised he's gone this late. And maybe you could even have gone Sachin before Lara, actually. I had to. And it's me again, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you sturdy opposition, Estelle, because my next pick is going to be Virendra Sehwag as the opener. And he's also someone who kind of picks himself. He's got 1,031 runs in Australia. He's averaging 46.86. And he's got 200s, including a best of 195. And that Australian team used to kind of exert a lot of pressure on opposition teams. So I want someone up top who could do the exact same thing to Australia. And Virendra Sehwag is an ideal candidate to do just that, which is why I think he's also a very straightforward pick, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the innings in the MCG was incredible. He wasn't. He's got a really good record in Australia, and I think if you look at, I was looking this up recently. A lot of attacking openers are very good in Australia. I think the West Indies, India. There's a few different places, and then the minute the ball starts moving sideways, a lot of those guys struggle. I think Gordon Greenidge is one of the few that has a really solid record. But the ball comes on in Australia, right? It comes onto the bat. And you can play your shots and you can trust it. And you're also going to get maximum runs. Like, especially in that period when outfields weren't particularly that good in the rest of the world. If you hit a ball at Australia, it was probably going for a 4, except for some of the bad MCG wickets, pitches at the time. But okay. No, that's quite interesting. I'm not trying to work out where we go here. So we've got an opener. We've got probably 3 and 4.
Yep.
We've got Wasim Akram and we've got Curtly Ambrose. I'm wondering if we have an all-rounder. Maybe that all-rounder comes later.
One all-rounder
what do you think?
List in the last one, which could potentially, that player could make it.
He's an interesting one, actually. He's an interesting one. He might come up later when we bring him up. And my memory of him specifically was he wasn't particularly good in Australia when Australia were good. And when they got a little bit more average, he started to do well. But you look at his numbers in that period and they still hold up pretty well. Yeah. But it suppose depends on when you cut it off, because I wonder how many of those runs came. So he only made 2. Anyway, I'm not picking him. So it doesn't matter.
Also, whoever didn't watch the last Crickpicks would not even know what we're talking about right now.
I don't even know what we're talking about right now. There's no wicket keepers, is there? It's an interesting period for wicket keepers. I suppose
I think
that
we'll
has
have to
to
keep
be
it for the end again.
Unless we just go Kumar.
I'm not opposed to that. I really
might have to. He was actually wicket keeping in that era, and he played one of the best innings of all time. God, this is shit. So then,
but his record during that period isn't great, is it?
It is in Australia.
Hobart came later, no? But he's got 550s apart from that ton.
Yeah, he played 3 games, made 100 and 350s in that period. So he averaged 65 in 3 games. I don't know if that counts Hobart or not, because I can't remember the date.
I think it does count Hobart, actually. Yeah. So
all right,
it did come in that period. Okay, do it.
We got Flintoff as well. Oh, Flintoff. I don't reckon he ever made any runs in Australia. I can't win because you guys have already got other players. So I am going to go Chris Cairns.
Okay. Interesting.
I think Chris Cairns was a very well-suited player in Australian conditions. Weirdly enough, because even though he was a bit of a swing bowler, he was quite strong and he hit the deck quite hard. And I think we need an all-rounder in this side. And I think that gives us with Cairns and with Akram. Yeah, so I'm going to go Chris Cairns ahead of Flintoff.
I think that makes sense because Flintoff was dog shit in Australia.
I think he bowled okay in Australia, but I don't remember him ever making any runs in Australia. And then behind, so I'm going specialists.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going Cairns and I'm going VVS Laxman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I had him as well, yeah.
So VVS Laxman makes over 1,000 runs in Australia. And in that era, and averaged more than 50 against them. And I know he's remembered more for making the Kolkata score. Yeah. People have forgotten that he actually batted really well in Australia as well. So, and a bit like Lara, I think he's very similar in that he needed motivation, and playing against Australia clearly took him to another level. And when he was at that level, he was, absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to go. So my list is all over the place. I got Ambrose, Cairns, and Laxman, but that also gives us a number 6 and a number 7.
That's true. Yeah, so the batting looks quite good. I'm just going to end it because I have an opener in mind, and I know neither of you probably have him on the list. And it is a bit of a rogue pick, but the numbers really more than hold up, in Australia. And if you think of that era, there are a couple of openers who might, on reputation, sound a lot better than the guy I'm about to pick. But
I'm
let's
so
go,
terrified.
Christopher Henry Gale
Oh, that's all right. No,
to
that's a good pick.
open the batting. Yeah. His numbers are super good. Like,
Not bad.
449 runs in 5 test matches. He's got 2 tons, including a best of 165 not out. He's averaging nearly 50, right? 49.88 with the bat. And you pair him up with Sehwag, and that is an explosive opening pair, right? So I've got no issues with that at all. And
I thought you were
I was
going
just
Michael
afraid.
Vaughan.
No. I was
I
afraid
thought so too.
that you guys will pick another opener and I won't get to pick Gale, which is why I've literally gone Gale right now. That was the rationale.
He didn't make that many runs, like as in that period. Like I don't think he played a lot of games, did he? But if you look at his overall record in Australia, it's fantastic. It's he really he's someone, again, as I was talking about before, of one of those players that in when the circumstances were right, I think he was a fantastic opening batter. So yeah, no, I've got no issues with that. I think that's a good decision.
What's the batting lineup looking like right
We
now?
have Sehwag, Gayle, Lara, Tendulkar, and then either Laxman at 5 or Laxman at 6, Cairns at 7.
Not bad. All right,
Okay, so
Estelle.
we need a keeper, right?
Yes. Please do
And we
the
need
deed.
another bowler. Yes.
We have no spinner at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no wicket keeper. So yeah, we need probably two more I would say 2 more bowlers, 1 wicket keeper, and then obviously we can probably we can always, we haven't put Callis in yet. We can put Callis in at number 5. Then
Potentially.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I'll go with another quick actually.
Okay.
I'll go with Dale Steyn.
Ooh, that's an interesting one because I had Donald ahead of Steyn in my perfect team.
I mean, it's Dale Steyn, right? And he was really good, I thought, during those last few years of Australian dominance. There were some really interesting series between Australia and South Africa in that period.
he didn't play much in Australia though, did he, when they were good? Where Donald went up against the best team. That's the only thing. I thought about Steyn as well, and that was the only thing. I thought he was brilliant when he did play, but it was very rarely,
Yeah,
And
so he's only played 2 games, and that's in 2008. 14 wickets.
Okay. So
and
he's
whereas
right at the end of it.
Donald plays 7 games.
Donald has 7 games, 29 wickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the other
he's
one is
averaging slightly better than Steyn. Like I think Steyn is 28.7 something, and Donald is 28.44. But it's
honestly,
like not a lot separates them.
You're looking at pure talent. I don't have the problem with it because I do think he was a slightly better bowler. But I think that if you're looking more specialists in Australia, I think Ian Bishop and Darren Goff are more interesting.
Yeah. I had Bishop as well, like in my long list. But
Goffey takes an awful lot of wickets in Australia. And because of, if I was going to, only because Steyn doesn't play against peak Australia in Australia. I think if I was going to go, I would probably pick my shorter bowler would have been Goff rather than Steyn, even though obviously Steyn's the better bowler, but just in that period, I think that would have been fair. But yeah, it's not no one's going to have a go at you for picking Dale Steyn on any list, right? Like
it's
are
like
you sure though?
No,
it's like a Matt Pryor pick, right, from the previous episode, because you barely get any of him, right, in that era.
Correct.
That's the only caveat, which is why I had Donald. But I mean, if you like Jarrod said, if you're looking at pure talent, he probably beats Donald.
I think he's slightly better than Donald. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I thought Donald was great as well. I don't want any Alan Donald hate out here, but I would have picked Bishop.
Yeah. I thought about Bishop as well. Yeah.
No,
I think we could have gone either way with that.
So the one thing I would say about our attack at the moment is Wasim Akram and Dale Steyn are both shortish. I mean, I know Wasim Akram's not short, but he was a skinnier bowler. So if you had Bishop in that lineup ahead, you then have the swing bowler and then you have the 2 tall bowlers back to back. But yeah, as I said, it's Dale Steyn. It's fine. He'll work out how to be good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I have one more pick, right? Who do we need? We have 9
Keeper.
people.
We need a wicket keeper.
We need a wicket keeper. And we need, the 12th is going to be picked by one of you.
Uh-huh.
And
Well,
potentially...
12th is going to be picked by Jarrod. Jarrod is 12th man in this one.
Yeah, so we've got... Do we have any betting slots open?
Just
we
for
do.
keeper one.
Well, we've got Sehwag, Gayle, Lara, Tendulkar, Laxman, and Cans. So we've got 6.
Okay, so only the
wickets
keeper.
and bat.
Only the keeper. So I'm not picking the keeper.
Ooh.
So you're gonna pick
'Cause
the
that's
spinner.
Is she?
I actually, in
Those are
my
the
team...
options. If you don't pick the keeper, you have to pick the spinner.
No,
Is she going to pick Callis over here? She could totally do
No,
that.
I'm not picking Callis. But in my team, actually, I had four pacers and I didn't have a spinner. I had my spinner as
Okay.
12th.
If you go up against Australia in Australia with no spinner,
Mm-hmm.
are they not just going to make sure that Adelaide MCG Gabba is a little bit dustier than normal and Warren just
I
destroys
mean, I didn't think
Also-
about that.
And then you got McGill as well, right? For certain
We
periods.
do have 4 seamers already, though, Estelle. Kens can
With
bowl a lot of
Kens.
dog overs, right? So, and he's probably going to start in this team because we'll need an all-rounder.
I'm going to have to pick the keeper then, no?
Or the spinner.
I want you to keep the,
I'm
pick
not
the
picking the
keeper.
spinner. Well, if
I
I pick
want-
actually, okay, let me pick the spinner. It'll be a popular pick in the
Will
comments,
it?
I'm sure. I'll go with Kumble.
Oh.
Ooh, man, I would have gone with the thing that Jarrod suggested, or the guy that Jarrod suggested earlier, because he has a phenomenal record.
Who is
It's
that?
okay.
Okay.
Mushtaq
But
Ahmed.
Kumble has
Mhm.
he has 49 wickets in 10 games, right? So
He did.
4-5 wicket hauls.
I don't think he was terrible. I just think that I mean Mushtaq Ahmed I just think was better suited to Australia. Also, Mushtaq Ahmed is a wrong-un bowler, and Australians don't pick wrong-uns as well as I think
Okay.
other cricket cultures do. You've also got Sakhlin Mushtaq, who I think is a fascinating one as well, because he played very well. And then Murali is the other option, right? Like
Yeah, but
we
Murali didn't do
see that-
much in...
Well, he only played a couple of games, right? And he was under, I was at the game where he got called for chucking. I can't imagine that helped. He knew the whole crowd was calling no ball every time he bowled. I can't
think
imagine he
weirdly,
missed the rest of his game at that point.
the most successful Sri Lankan spinner is Upul Chandana in Australia, I think.
If you had picked
by the numbers.
Chandigarh, that would have been absolute
Dilhara
genius.
Fernando.
Yeah, okay, Kumble. I think, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go and fix that because you're not going to have...
Don't pick another spinner. We can't pick two
You're not
spinners.
you're not going to have 2 spinners in the lineup, right? Well, okay,
Behram,
fine.
don't do
Fine.
this.
I'll do it. I'll do the thing that I've been wanting someone else to do, and I'll pick Sangha. He's the keeper.
No.
Because his batting numbers are really good over here, dude. Like, he scored 543 runs in 5 test matches in Australia. He's got that 192 in Hobart. And besides that, he's got 550s
But
as well.
does
So he's
that
averaging...
fall within that period?
We checked. It does, doesn't it?
He makes runs in that period.
Yeah, and he's averaging 60 overall. And you know what? He was keeping in that era when Australia were dominant. So I just like the other options aren't as good, which is why I was
Who's
hoping that
second?
one of you people.
Who's second and third?
Furore.
Second and third, eh?
Furore.
AB de Villiers keeps in that era, no?
I don't think he does, mate. Oh, I might, I suppose.
Might have.
Yeah, I thought he was a little bit later. So I remember AB de Villiers keeping in 13-14 against Australia. So but I think his wicket keeping is a little bit more mixed up. So you might be right. I'm trying to think if there's anyone. I mean, the problem is that is a crossover period, right? There aren't that many wicket keepers who make any runs.
Alex Stewart was another option, but what's
Actually,
his record
there's a better option.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
It's too late now, but who was the better option?
Andy Flower.
Oh no, he never played though in Australia, right?
It does. Well, that's not his fault. Like he actually played Sheffield Shield cricket in Australia. I don't think he played. I'm not sure if he did play a test.
Was that one of Behram's rules that they needed to have? Was it? Or they
No,
just needed to claim
it
in
wasn't.
that
It
period?
wasn't my rule. Just in the
Because we
era.
picked Pakistanis, right, for the previous
Yeah.
one.
No. They have to had played a test match in
So
the specified era.
Sangakkara has wicket kept in Australia in that period. Right, so one of his games was, weirdly enough, it was the game he didn't make any runs. So you got just go through the book, the idea, because I think this is really quite interesting. You've got Alex Stewart, who does okay. Adam Perore averaged 54 in Australia.
Whoa.
In 6 games. They hated him so much, by the way. The Australians would moan the entire time he was batting. You'd hear him from the stump mic. Mark Boucher averaged 22. Ridley Jacobs, 32. Kalu Watharana, 27. Junior Murray, 3. Like, so McCullum, you could have got
You
mowing.
could have gone McCullum.
Dhoni keeps in Australia as well in that period, right towards the end of it. Yeah, I think Andy Flower's probably the best choice, but I've got no problem with Sangakkara. I went with Sangakkara before as well. There's so many. There's like 83 English wicket keepers here. It is like forget the amount of time. There's just like they must have used like multiple it's Geraint Jones and Chris Reed, Warren Hegg, right? James Foster. It's just like you're just making up names at a certain point here. Okay, so you've got Kumar Sangakkara. Well, let's just make it easy and go Darts Callis then as the 12th man, who's probably I just went with VVS over him because I thought VVS. Yeah. So I was at one of the best innings I've ever seen was Callis in Australia at the MCG, where Warne was just ragging the ball sideways consistently the whole game. And in the 5th innings, Callis blocked out a draw. He must have played a miss. Like it was like Ben Stokes versus Nathan Lyon. He must have played a miss like 83 times and just never bothered him. He just kept going, okay, well, I'm just going to play inside the line. And Bob Woolmer had programmed his robot to be like, doesn't matter if you play and miss, just make sure if anything's on the stumps, you can't go out to it. I don't know if his bowling was any good in Australia though. Did anyone look that up? Callis in Australia, he averaged 42.
Oh yeah,
so his bowling's
I did
massive
actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I still think
he still could bowl. He could bowl the dog overs for us, and he's got enough runs there, right? I get the fact that in that
you could pick him ahead of Cairns, right? Like I picked Cairns because I thought Cairns batted. I thought Cairns played some really important innings in Australia. Also, I like the idea of having an attacking player to go back at Australia.
Yeah.
But Cairns is just I think Cairns was a better bowler than Callis because he cared about his bowling more. But I specifically think he was a better bowler than Callis in Australia. Right. So even if his overall record, Cairns, is not as great with bowling, I'd definitely pick, if I was picking one guy to come on at second change in Australia, I would probably prefer to have Cairns' bowling than I would Callis's. And that probably isn't the case in South Africa, right? But Cairns ends up with a bowling average of under 30.
And if this game or whatever this series, imaginary series that we're playing has a test match at both the Gabba and the Wacker, then I would always take Cairns over Callis, right? Because I would want his bowling over there. But Callis's runs are still impressive. Sure, he didn't score them versus the best Australian teams, but he's got 1254 runs in 15 tests in Australia. He's averaging 48. He's got 3 tons, and he can bowl the dog overs with the ball. So I'm happy with that 12th man pick. I'm just really, really miffed about Mushtaq Ahmed not getting picked over here.
It's a weird one though, because he only plays 3 games, Mushtaq Ahmed. So I think he's the obvious one. What's Vittori's record? Does he take any wickets over there?
He has a decent record as well, right?
Oh, does he?
11 games, 35 wickets, but averaging 39.
I almost think if you're going to pick between Kumble and Vittori, you pick Vittori because of the batting.
True.
Because that's one thing against Australia, isn't it?
Wasim, right?
Yeah, but think about it. If you can really stack this side then at that point, so that you could have Wasim at 10. Oh, actually, no, at 9 probably wouldn't you? Well, no, you could if you really wanted to. You could really stack it and you can move everyone down a spot, and you could drop one of Steyn or you wouldn't drop Andros, but you drop one of Steyn or Kumble, and then you've got batting all the way down. You do have to rely a lot more on Chris Cairns' bowling at that point. But the point being is Vittori is a step up even on, and not that Kumble is a terrible batter, but he's a step up again on that batting.
I would love to know what Kumble's record is in Sydney, because Sydney is the place where spinners generally tend to excel, right? Like Mushtaq, for instance, has 22 wickets in 4 test matches in Australia. His average is 33.5, but he's got 9 wickets in Sydney. And I reckon that both of his fifers came there, if I'm not wrong.
Well, I'm not sure, because I reckon he took a 10-wicket haul in Hobart.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, which is, again, one of the reasons I would want Mushtaq over anyone else. Is because
plus, you always speak of overspin, right? And he had overspin.
Exactly. I don't think there's another spinner who's come to Australia who's like had the kind of impact that he had. I thought he was a really, really good bowler. And I can't remember if it was what test match that was. But I remember Shane Warne trying to hit him out of the attack. Like Shane Warne was, I wouldn't say shaken by him, but Shane Warne was a little bit like, this guy's got some game. They didn't pick him particularly well. But yeah, look, honestly, it's only from a couple of games with Mushy anyway. So
yeah. There's more of a sample size with Kumble, and there's experience, so it's not the worst pick.
Wickets in Australia, right? Like, and Victoria, 35 wickets in Australia. You know, they knew what they were doing, and I suppose if you look at our lineup, if you've got Cairns and you've potentially got Callis and you've got Ambrose, Steyn, and Akram, having a stock bowler is maybe not the worst way to go about it. So perhaps you drop. So perhaps what you do is you drop Steyn, you bring Callis in, and then you've got Callis and Cairns when it's moving around, and then you've got Akram and Ambrose to attack with Kumble to bowl your defensive overs, or Vittori if we'd gone that way. So it's not the end of the world, but again, like we said with the other side, I'm not sure this is beating Australia, is it? Is this beating peak Australia?
Not sure, because
This
peak
one
Australia at
than
home.
the
maybe
last
it
one, I
is.
think. Yeah.
It might actually,
Because
because
the batting
we're
is
stacked.
really good, right?
Yeah.
The problem here is once Australia make the wicket spin. If
That is
because
the
they can bring
problem,
McGill in as their second spinner, and then you are in a bit of trouble. The batting's fantastic. I don't have really many issues with the batting at all. And as I said before, you can bat this. You can bat this so deep. Like Akram could come in so far down the order if you wanted him to, or Kumble, who also could bat. Right, you could have either of them way down the order. But yeah, no, I think this. I think this follows on what we were saying the other day, Behram, whereas I think it's much is as great as Australia were, and they're probably more dominant than India have been, home and away.
Yeah.
I actually think it's easier to come up with a side that beats Australia than it is to come up with a side that beats India. And of course, it'd be really the other fascinating one is what you do with the West Indies and how you go about that one.
Will be our next episode, by the way. But in terms of honorable mentions, I think KP needs to get spoken of over here. Like, he was very close to making my team, right? He had 1144 runs in Australia in 15 test matches. He's averaging 45. He had that 227, right? And another ton as well. So he just misses out. And in my perfect team, I had Donald and Mushtaq, but the rest was very similar, right?
Okay. We talked about Ian Bishop before. I think Rahul Dravid makes a lot of runs in Australia in that period.
It's just that Lara is there, right? So that's why Dravid isn't.
Yeah, you're just
That's
not going to
the
be able
thing,
to get
right?
that
You
much.
can't go past Lara and Tendulkar in that 3-4 spot.
Vaughan has one series, so it depends on kind of how much you want to, be excited about that one series. My memory is, I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, Ramps has a ridiculously good record in Australia, which everything about Ramps' record is absolutely stupid and backwards from that point of view. And just because Gayle, not everyone will understand the whole Gayle thing. There isn't really another opener, is there? From my memory, I think Kirsten was okay over there. I don't think there's another opener. Ather's never made any runs, and I don't think Smith made any runs. So
Gale's our second spinner with the surface is turning, by the way. And Sachin.
Sachin, yeah. Sehwag.
And Sehwag. Okay, we're not that bad, Jarrod. You've underestimated this team in Sydney.
Could we have gone Cook?
He doesn't qualify, does he?
He does qualify. He did play against this team. He plays in 2006, 2007. He just was shit.
Oh, right. He does qualify.
I mean,
but no, I would rather have Sehwag Gayle.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because you got with Sehwag, Gayle and Cairns and Akram, you got a couple of and Lara, you got a couple of guys who can really go, right? Like if they have to.
And I mean, Sanga's in this team as well, so it's literally stacked when the batting is concerned.
So I went Ambrose, Chris Cairns, VVS Laxman, Dark Callis. Behram went Wasim Akram, Virender Sehwag, Chris Gayle, Kumar Sangakkara, and Estelle went Brian Lara, Sachin Tendulkar, Dale Steyn, and Kumble. I know this is a longer period, but it does feel like better names than we could come up with than the other one, right? Like I think that's fair to say. So our team is Virender Sehwag, Chris Gayle, Brian Lara, Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Laxman, Kumar Sangakkara, Chris Cairns, Anil Kumble, Wasim Akram. I probably got those backwards. Dale Steyn, Curtly Ambrose, and Jarrod Callis obviously would probably be in the 11, but the way that we set it up originally, he was not.
So let us know who we missed and who you would have had in the team. Why picking Mushtaq Ahmed was a big mistake, or not picking him was a big mistake, and who you think won this particular draft. Because I think we're all quite good in this one, right? Everyone has good names. Estelle has Lara and
Me.
Tendulkar, so she's probably going to win it.
I'm not going to win with Chris Cairns, am I? Jesus.
That's also like it's not even like it's just a tone deaf pick in 2024.
That's what I mean. Like,
Jarrod.
in so many ways, I'm not going to win with Chris Cairns, which is a shame because we have forgotten what a fantastic cricketer he was.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are reasons.
I like the 6 hitting prowess that he's providing this team with, right, in the lower middle order. But of course, you know, let us know who you think we missed. Mention that in the comment section. Tell us who won. And we'll be back with another episode of Crickpicks next week. And of course, that'll be the West Indies one because we've done India-Australia, so West Indies remains. Just a quick reminder, you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage, and that can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the work that we do as part of this team, whether it be written content, videos, or podcasts. We'll see you next week on another Crickpicks, and let's see what we come up with as a team which can defeat the West Indies in their dominant era. That's all for now, though. Goodbye.
If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now.